to make sure everybody can hear me okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Well, hey again, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. My name is Kelly Horton. I'm one of the marketing managers here at Blackbaud. And before we get started, I wanted to quickly run through some housekeeping items, and then we'll jump into our agenda for today and introduce our presenters. Some of you may have attended our webinars before and may know how this works, but just so everybody can have a good experience, I want to let everybody know that everyone is already on mute. Only the panelists will be able, you'll only be able to hear the panelists speaking, but feel free to ask questions anytime during the webinar. You can use the chat widget at the bottom of the screen, and we'll be monitoring those and try to answer them as soon as possible, or even save some for the end if we need to. And also wanted to let you know that we will be sending out a copy of the presentation and a recording after the session to each of you, so you can sit back and just listen in. So we're excited to share the details with you today around Blackbaud's partnership with Almabase and how the integration with Rexs Edge NXT can help you engage more alumni and advance your mission in today's new virtual reality that we're living in. We're also going to hear from Katy Hargis. She is the Development and Annual Giving Manager at Northwestern Health Sciences University. She's going to share some insights about how her team made the best use of the integration at her campus and their decision around implementing it at their school. And then Kalyan Varma is the CEO of Almabase, and he'll be showing you a little more detail of all the features and functionality of the integration and how it works. I think you can go ahead and skip to the next slide, Kalyan. Perfect. So for those of you who may not be familiar with Blackbaud, I just wanted to give you some insight into who we are and what we offer our customers. We've been supporting education institutions for over 35 years, and that experience has really enabled us to develop a full cloud solution for higher education. You can see this is our comprehensive array of solutions that power all the different needs and offices across campus, from fundraising and marketing to financial management to student and education management. We also have a large partner network we work with, like Almabase, that can add additional value for our customers and allow you more flexibility. And that's why we wanted to partner with Almabase and roll out the integration with Rexs Edge NXT, because we know this is a time of uncertainty and advancement offices really need to work smarter and more efficiently. And we know the importance of keeping alumni engaged is essential to the advancement office. And with Rexs Edge NXT and Almabase integration, hopefully you're going to be able to do that a little easier than ever. So Rexs Edge NXT is, and you can go back one, you can keep it on that slide. Yep, there we go. So Rexs Edge NXT is our premier cloud fundraising and relationship management solution that helps institutions gain efficiency, data insight, streamline reporting. But the primary reason institutions choose Rexs Edge NXT is because they want to raise more money. And in this new pandemic world we're living in, advancement offices are being asked to increase their revenue streams, like many of you likely are, which can be hard to do in a virtual world without in-person events and networking opportunities. So we want to make sure you've got the tools to cultivate relationships and ultimately raise more money. And then we can go to the next slide. So I wanted to share just some of the features and functionality you gain with Rexs Edge NXT, so you have an understanding of what it offers and how it helps, in partnership with Almabase, helps you work smarter and more efficiently. And some of this Katy may touch on during her section, but just wanted to call out a few things. That it is a cloud-based mobile solution, so you can take action on the go wherever you're working from these days, whether it's a virtual office, a home office. Some days, Katy was saying she went into her office today, and some days she's working from home. We offer smart tags for constituents and kind of a needs attention prompt, so that that are automatically calculated every night, so you're prompted to take timely, appropriate action. Data help scorecards and workflows are really helpful. You're able to automatically send emails to constituents, assign actions to people in your organization. For example, creating a workflow that sends new constituents a series of welcome emails. And then you can kind of see here some of the other things we'll call out. But the integration with Rexs Edge NXT and Almabase will allow you to maximize your donor database and your fundraising efforts even more, which Colleen will walk you through more in detail on the features and how it works. But ultimately, you're able to leverage data and engage more alumni thoughtfully. You gain insight, and so you can engage alumni more frequently with fully branded, targeted communications, grow your social network in a time without in-person events, which we all know we're trying to think creatively out of the box and come up with new ways to engage people and network. And as alumni are engaging with you and other alumni on the network, you're constantly be adding clean data, updated contact information to your CRM. And so this is just kind of to set the stage. I've touched on a few of the benefits of the integration, but I want to let Katy tell you why they chose Almabase and how this integration has worked on her campus and give you a little bit more insight. And with that, Katy, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Kelly. Well, welcome everybody. My name is Katy Hargis, and I'm with Northwestern Health Sciences University in Bloomington, Minnesota, looking out over a beautiful fall day, a little bit chilly, but we'll take that, although there's supposed to be snow in northern Minnesota this week. So I'll take the beautiful sun. So welcome everybody. I wanted to tell you a little bit about Northwestern Health Sciences University, as we are a bit unique in the world of higher education going forward, because it really will give you some perspective and insight into why we chose Almabase based upon who we are. So you can go to the next slide, Colleen. We have a unique focus on integrative health. We have approximately 1,000 students with a history of being a chiropractic college. Started about 100 years ago. Being a chiropractic college, and about 20 years ago, we grew into incorporate integrative health into our curriculum. Next slide, Colleen. Whoops, that's okay. We offer a full student experience. We have about 1,000 students at Northwestern Health Sciences University. And so about 20 years ago, we started to incorporate, next slide. We started to incorporate, in addition to being a chiropractic college, we have a College of Acupuncture and Chinese Medicine. We have a College of Health and Wellness, massage therapy, post-baccalaureate health degrees, where a lot of students will come and already have a 4-year degree and then are interested in going to med school. So they'll come here to get their science classes. It's a very popular thing to do with our students. We have on-site clinics where our students and faculty work with the public. And we also have interesting, we call it the Human Performance Center, where our professional athletes, whether it's the Vikings, the Twins, some of our professional rugby and soccer teams, will come here to get integrative health care for their particular issues that they're having. And the Sweary Clinic is just opened a new pain clinic for those patients that can't seem to get relief in traditional medicine, will come to Northwestern Health Sciences University. So we have about 9,000 alums, and primarily though about 7,000 of them were able to connect with, and I'll talk about that a little bit more as we go forward. So as you can tell, we are a little bit unique in who we are. And you can go into the next one, Colleen. We are a small team, and I will reiterate this as I go through this presentation again. We're a small team, we're a small team, we're a small team. There are only 3 of us. There is myself, the Vice President of Advancement, and 1 alumni relations person. So I've been here about 1.5 years, and right before I came on, the conversation were the challenges and what to do in order to get us to grow. So in early 2019, we realized that basically our alumni engagement was not very high. Our records on Rexs Edge were not up to date. We had a lot of records, and still we're making great progress, but we have a lot of records that were still the original nwhealth.edu emails. And of course, people move on and don't look at those. So losing touch with all those records, which is really rich data and rich alumni information. Again, we are a small team. We had too many silos of email communication. For example, we had our community education was sending out emails. Our marketing department was sending out emails versus MailChimp. We were sending some out. Nobody knew what anybody else was doing. So we were really looking, that was a big challenge for us to try to figure out what to do about all of those silos of communication. And not the very least, we did not have a culture of philanthropy. There were some changeovers and some transitions at Northwestern about 5 to 7 years ago. And so a lot of the information just simply got dropped. So we really had our challenges cut out, things cut out for us as we looked into what we wanted to do. So our goals in thinking about a portal, which ultimately, of course, became Almabase, was to increase our engagement and ultimately drive more donations. As we all know, the more engaged an alum is, the happier they are, the more they feel connected to the place where they're at, and hence the arrow goes, they will donate. We wanted to capture updated alumni data on Rexs Edge. That was absolutely a deal breaker because we already had Rexs Edge, but it wasn't being nurtured and taken care of as it should have been. So we really needed something that would capture that alumni data. We needed to be able to operate more efficiently as a small team. As a lot of you probably out there know that are on small teams, we wear a lot of hats. We're expected to be prospect researchers, development officers, event planners, you know, I could go on and on. So as we wear all these different hats, how can we operate more efficiently as a team, and what tool could we use that would really help us? And then it all circles back in my mind. You really want it to be easier to give. You don't want your alum who finally is motivated to give to have to wade through either a very unclear website or simply can't find the right buttons to push. So those were really our goals as we explored different avenues. So our requirements for a new system, as I mentioned before, capturing updated contact information for alums. We needed a system to engage alums consistently, like on a regular basis, and have everything in one place. So this was something else that was pretty important to us. We wanted to be able to say, alumni, come to our site, be able to give, register for events, network, mentorships with our program, especially chiropractic, is very big. A lot of our students have a requirement where they have to mentor with another chiropractor before they graduate. So we wanted all of this information in one place. The fourth bullet is kind of a unique in this fact is that we were getting a lot of phone calls from alums that would say, I'm moving to Portland, Oregon, and I like the chiropractic philosophy of Northwestern. Where are their alums in Portland? And of course, virtually impossible to do without pulling a big long spreadsheet. So the ability to have a new system where alumni could do it themselves, or in the case that we could do it for them very easily. Handle event registrations, easy online donation capabilities, easy email marketing capabilities. And I think this one is important in that any one of us on the small team could send out an email. It would look like it came from us, all consistent with our branding, and be really easy to do with the template process. The ability to use the data studio, which is really segmenting our alumni based on parameters, class years, preferences, locations. And then the ability to capture and report engagement metrics, how many click-throughs, how many unsubscribes. That was really important. And then I put the star there because it all comes back to it had to be able to talk to Rexs Edge. We were not going to look for a system that we were going to have an additional interface to get this information from one portal to the next. So that was really the main driving range. So how do we use Blackbaud and Almabase together? Well, one thing that we started doing was creating the online community for alums. We really marketed Almabase to alumni to get them to sign up. We sent them magnets that had the logo on it. We've branded it now to be called NWHSU Connects. So pretty much every time we have a communication with an alum, we would talk about the advantages of NWHSU Connects to get them to sign up. Because the tool, if they can't sign up, you really can't use it. So we had great success with that. We drove and are still driving all of our registration for our events, in person and virtual, through Almabase. Everything from webinars to our golf tournament to meetings with the alumni board. We've had about 1,000 total registration events so far. And again, the key is we're able to have it all in one place. So it doesn't sit in marketing. It doesn't sit in a different section of the university. It sits here on Almabase. We conducted our first ever Give Day in 2019. And vastly surpassed the goal that we had set for giving. And we are getting ready to do our second ever Give Day on November 17th of this year, again, also through Almabase. We created the general giving page so an alums can go and give and have it be a very simple experience. Our previous attempt on our webpage was not pretty, let's just put it that way. So it was really nice to be able to have a general giving page. We use it as we capture meeting attendance for alumni boards, and we use it for our mentoring program. So this, I think, is interesting. When an alum goes to sign up, there's a place on the portal that says, what are all the things you're interested in doing for the university? And one of the boxes is mentoring. So our alumni relations people can pull that information right out of Almabase and connect directly with that alum and say, hey, great. Now let's connect about mentoring a student. So as more alums participated, then their information is updated on Rexs Edge. So it's a win-win. And like I said, we really needed this because our records were not very good. And then we're also able to automatically capture and report engagement metrics, emails, events, donations. And then the next slide. I think the big question is how have we, along with everybody else out there in listening to this webinar, how have we adjusted since the pandemic? Well, of course, we can't have in-person events. We've turned to virtual events. We pivoted to offer webinars focused on the health topics of interest to alums and have received great feedback. We're all at home. It's much easier to hear about a topic of health if you're sitting in front of your computer than taking the time to sit in front of your computer if you're somewhere else. We had normally offered a great opportunity for our alums to go to the Minnesota Twins and the Minnesota United soccer games, but that wasn't going to happen this year. So instead, we had just a really great success with panel discussions. There's integrative health staff on both the Minnesota Twins and Minnesota United soccer. And what I think is unique about this opportunity is not only did we have alums, but we had prospective students who were interested in working with professional sports teams, and we had students themselves. So we don't usually offer opportunities for students on our panel discussions, but we decided to do it this time, and it was a great success. And we've also done pop-up career fairs. Our career services area, one person, is now using Almabase and targeting and connecting mentors across the country. So while it started with development, moved to alumni relations, and now our career services is doing it. Like I said, I mentioned our Give Day. And so by making our programming more accessible, we're able to engage more alums that we haven't engaged before. So what's next? Well, the most exciting thing that I really think is going to happen for us is one of our goals for 2021 is to really work with alumni metrics to inform our development plan. We have a newly created, fresh, buffed development plan, and one of those is to really focus on alumni metrics. So Almabase and Blackbaud are allowing us to do this because as we engage alums, it will be able to sync back to NXT, and we'll be able to use that to help drive our giving. And as they register for events, we'll be able to use those metrics also to help us say, boy, they attended 6 events. They must be really interested, be engaged. Let's move them up in the moves management process and perhaps start contacting them. Thank you.
Thanks, Katie. We have a couple of questions here, so I want to get to that before we sort of move forward. So there's a question from John Bolt. Can you manage registrations for complex multi-day events like Reunion Homecoming Weekend with multiple options, some free, some paid, and checking out once? If yes, does that event registration flow to the events area in Rexs Edge NXT? John, the answer to that is yes. You can set up complex registration processes on Almabase, and that registration information does flow back into Rexs Edge NXT. I would say that there are some caveats around what parts of that information flows into Rexs Edge, but that's, I think, a conversation that we can have offline. So if you wouldn't mind reaching out, we can definitely talk about the specifics of that. Thanks, John. And there's a question from Shannon. Does Almabase replace the need for net community? There are some overlaps, Shannon, with respect to what Almabase does and what net community does. So again, like it would really get into the specifics of what you're looking for your university or school. So again, I would say there is some overlap, but again, the specifics would really matter. So we should probably have that conversation offline as well. Hopefully that's answered your question, Shannon. Shreya Sareen asks, how can we create content for increasing engagement? What about alumni podcasts? What kind of content could work? I don't know, Kelly or Katie, if you want to jump into this question, but my answer again is a lot of that depends on your engagement strategy. It works differently for different universities, but I've certainly seen podcasts work for some universities. Content like videos, etc., have also worked really well. But yeah, I don't think there is a one size fits all answer to that. Kelly, Katie, anything you want to add to that?
Nothing in particular. I mean, we've offered, like I said, particular targeted webinars for health, and our alums are able to get CE credits for those things, which is a huge win. But in terms of podcasts in particular, not. I don't imagine it would be a whole lot different than what we're offering.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Colleen. I mean, I think some of our institutions we've seen do podcasts, webinars. We've, networking communities. We kind of see it run the gamut. So I think it's definitely important to try different things and definitely kind of see what sticks and see what works best for your audience. And that, depending on the audience, it could be different for whoever you're targeting, whether it's marketing folks or depending on what their job is, what their role is, and just kind of depending on how you want to segment that out. I think there's got a lot of room to kind of play around with. So I would definitely encourage you to try multiple things and see which one works.
Yeah, I would agree with Kelly and add one more thing is that we as I mentioned with the panel discussions with our Minnesota Twins United, we had very low expectations. We had no idea if people would be interested in coming at 7 o'clock at night to listen to a panel discussion, and found out that yes, they did. So sometimes it's just a matter of we had one at noon and had good success. We had another one with the loons at 7 p.m. and had good success. We just tried it. We had no idea. So yeah, it's a new reality just to try.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that spirit of experimentation and sort of rinsing and repeating that process is actually really important for every institution to figure out what works best for them and their alumni. We have a couple more questions. One from Sarah. Are the webinars hosted on Almabase versus Zoom? And if so, what are the pros and cons of each format? So Sarah, the answer to that is the webinar, it can still be hosted on Zoom, but Almabase has an integration with Zoom. So the webinar can still happen on Zoom, but the registration process can be run through Almabase. And then the registration information is synced with Rexs Edge. So hopefully that's answered your question.
That's what we did. Yeah, that's exactly what we did with our webinars. Yeah.
Perfect. And a couple more questions coming in. Kelsey Greaves. Are there any training webinars available for how to integrate Rexs Edge NXT and Almabase? Kelsey, that's a very good point. I think we should probably plan for one. We don't have one yet. I do think we have some videos on how it's set up and things like that. But yeah, if you wouldn't mind following up with us, we can share that material with you, but maybe even plan like a webinar on how that actually works. And then one last question here from Amanda. What have you found to be the best strategy for engaging alumni on the social media platforms? Katie, anything that you want to mention there? What's the best strategy for engaging alumni on social media platforms?
Can you be a little more specific in terms of like Facebook, LinkedIn, that kind of a thing? Is that what the question was more about?
Yeah, I think the question was more about what has worked for you on Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or anything.
Well, it's interesting because we have had a pretty good success with, after we've had our events, putting those recordings, for example, on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. So that's one piece to kind of tie in the whole process, is have a webinar, have something interesting, have an event, and then we also represent it on our social media platform. So that drives people to the social media platform if they've missed the webinar and they're still interested in it. We've had pretty good success with our social media. We just really try to blanket it and really don't hold back from, again, another tool in our toolbox.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think, I don't know, Kelly, do you want to add anything to that in terms of social media engagement? Hey.
Yeah, I think that covers it. I mean, I think definitely leveraging, like we said before, we found, different offices respond better on different channels. So depending on who you're talking to, I think, you'll have a different strategy. And I think you'll have to it's all about kind of figuring out what the magic bullet is.
Right. Absolutely. And I think Jose here asked for Katy to show this slide on how they used Blackbaud and Almabase together. So I was just pulling this slide back. I'm going to actually, in the interest of time, there are a few more questions that have come in, but in the interest of time, I'm going to quickly run through the rest of the presentation, if that's okay, and then we'll come back to the rest of the questions. So yeah, again, thank you, Katy, for taking us through your story. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Kalyan. I'm the co-founder and CEO here at Almabase. I want to actually start by giving you a brief history of how Almabase was created. So a classmate of mine and I started Almabase several years ago after having personally been impacted by a lack of scholarships. Originally we were trying to solve this problem for ourselves and our friends, but eventually realized that the relationship between alumni and their alma mater was broken, not just at our college, but at most institutions. And so that's why we created Almabase to really help every institution build lifelong relationships with all their alumni, and through that improve fundraising. I mean, we've come a long way from there. We're the world's most loved alumni management software. And, with partners like Blackbaud, we have the privilege of, serving thousands of advancement professionals and millions of alumni every day. So with that background out of the way, I know a lot of you have joined this webinar to understand how to drive higher alumni engagement in these times. And we've looked at Kelly talking about how Blackbaud and Almabase come together, and Katy presenting what they've been able to do over the last couple of years in terms of driving more engagement. But I want to actually take a step back and, before we dive into understanding more about driving more engagement, I think it's important to first acknowledge the change that we're seeing in what alumni relations is expected to do, right? Successful alumni programs today are no longer just about putting together events every year, right? I mean, that is still a crucial part of a good alumni program, but that is by no means sufficient, right? So let me actually explain that shift with an example, right? I mean, so 30 years ago, or 30, 40 years ago, let's say Apple had to promote a watch, right? They would basically advertise on as many billboards as possible across America and hope that enough people will be there, see them, and be interested in them, right? But today, you'll actually see that watch everywhere you go, right? Like on your phone, just before your YouTube video plays, or on your social media feeds, on your computer, when you're browsing the internet, on the TV, literally everywhere, right? And the point there is that marketing has evolved so brands are present wherever their audience are, right? And similarly, I think you should be thinking about where your alumni are and make sure your alumni programming is accessible to your alumni wherever they are, right? Because if you're expecting to improve alumni engagement by just organizing events, that's like relying just on billboards in 2020, right? So marketing can do a lot more, and alumni programming needs to do a lot more to be able to actually drive higher alumni engagement. Because today, your alumni are the same consumers of all of these other services, right? And they expect services and experiences to be delivered on demand, wherever they are, whenever they want to. And honestly, this shift has been happening for several years now, but it's been significantly accelerated by this pandemic, right? And what we've observed is that the best advancement shops are not just prepared, but are actually thriving with this shift. For example, Katy spoke earlier about how their webinars on health topics, right, drew alumni that were never engaged before, right? So that's very interesting. It's a great opportunity as long as you acknowledge this shift, right? And she also spoke about, for example, their mentoring program with sort of mentors around the country, right? Like it's no longer who can be available on campus, right? You now have the ability to access all of your alumni around the world, right? That's what we call like truly accessible on-demand alumni programming, right? So, I wanted to, again, like I said, take a step back and understand the shift that's happening in alumni relations before we dive in and understand how we can drive more alumni engagement, right? So let's talk about how do you actually create such programming, right? Well, these are all the Lego blocks, if you will, that you need to build, a successful alumni program. I call these Lego blocks because each of these needs to work well with each other, right? And like talk to each other. Every institution is obviously unique, and a successful alumni program will likely look different for each institution. Just like every Lego structure that's been built, right? The blocks are the same, but the end result is different, right? We were talking about this a little bit earlier in the webinar as well, in terms of why it's important to experiment and figure out what works for your audience, right? So I'll just quickly sort of walk through what these different Lego blocks are. You need online communities to be able to connect your alumni, support them, and allow them to network with each other. You need online forms to be able to gather new information from your alumni. Directories allow you to list resources, list jobs, list alumni run businesses, however you want to sort of use that information, right? Sorry. I don't know what happened there. Give me 1 second, sorry. Yeah. And, with directories, you can sort of list resources, list jobs, like I said, list alumni run businesses. But once you put all this content out there, you need a strong but simple sort of verification system to make sure the right people can access the right content, right? And this is, again, the blocks on the left are what you will need for your alumni to be able to engage with the institution and with each other. And then on the back end, you need a strong fundraising system, obviously, to accept donations. You need an email marketing system to communicate with your alumni. You need an event management system that allows you to efficiently run your virtual and in-person events. And finally, the sort of the bedrock of all of this is a strong way to measure engagement everywhere alumni can engage with you. And like we were talking about a little while earlier, it's no longer just events, right? Like your alumni are now engaging with you across so many different channels. And if you don't do a good job of measuring engagement and understand what's working and what isn't, you won't be able to actually improve your program, right? So I want to actually take a couple of examples of alumni programs and how these Lego blocks actually come together, right? Let's say you want to actually put together an online mentoring program, right? You'd start with a form that allows alumni to volunteer as mentors, key in their information. Then you'd use a directory to list the mentors. You would then allow other verified alumni and students to connect with appropriate mentors. And then you would use email marketing to drive more participation. And finally, you would use the measurement system to measure all of the engagement, and then rinse and repeat to make the program better, right? That's how you'll actually build a successful alumni mentoring program. Similarly, like, if I take another example, let's say you want to actually foster engagement using regional chapters, you'd use the online communities to be able to create a community for members of that chapter, right? You'd use the fundraising system to manage membership subscriptions. You'd use the event management system to allow volunteers to organize their events, and then again measure everything that's measure how it's working, right? So if you have all of these Lego blocks in place, what you can do is you can just focus on creating programming that actually works to advance your institution's mission and drive more participation, right? And what we provide with Almabase and Blackbaud is that we provide you with all of these Lego blocks, and they actually work great together, right? So I want to actually show you the actual product by using some of the pages of the Northwestern Health Sciences University alumni portal as an example. Let me just jump there. So this is the Northwestern Health Sciences University alumni portal page, right? As you can see, Katy was mentioning, this is called NWHSU Connect. Alumni come in here and are able to sign up. They're able to look at, news and updates that have been posted, upcoming events. They're able to, link their social media feeds here, add pictures, any jobs that are available. They have classifieds here. They have fundraising campaigns listed here. So it's all in one place for alumni to be able to come in and, engage and support the institution, right? They have very clearly sort of articulated how alumni can use, the platform. There's the map feature that Katy was talking about, where alumni can find each other on a map. So this is really interactive and allows alumni to go in here and say, hey, I'm going to be traveling to, New York. I'm going to be able to sort of zoom in and find other alumni in the area, right? So I'm going to also be able to find specific alumni and be able to contact them, right? Then there's obviously the more traditional alumni directory up here, where alumni can come in and find each other, search for each other, find them by employer, by field of practice, things like that. And all these beautiful people show up on the directory. You can link your fundraising pages here. You can obviously have all of your events show up here. So these are upcoming events. These are all the events that have been concluded. Each of these events then presents the ability for alumni to register. For example, Northwestern Health Sciences University recently had a golf tournament, and you could see that this is the way they set up the page and allowed for all of these sponsors to be shown up. And registration is obviously not open right now, but again, very, very interactive way for alumni to be able to connect with each other and engage with the university. What's also interesting about this is, for example, Katy and their team is now able to provide resources, for COVID-19. They're able to sort of list all of the benefits for alumni right here. So alumni have one place to access all of the information that's important for them. They're able to highlight the, how the mentorship program works and how alumni can access the mentorship program, different ways in which alumni can participate. So get involved, be a mentor, join the board, inspire students. So, and then link to their Handshake job portal. So all of these different ways in which, alumni can actually engage with the institution. And quickly on the back end, like, I won't go into too much detail here, but, one of the benefits of doing this on Almabase is that because it seamlessly syncs with Rexs Edge, you're able to actually connect each of these events, for example, with the appropriate event on Rexs Edge and be able to just push a couple of buttons and have all of the data synced with Rexs Edge instantly, right? I want to also show you a couple of other things really quickly. You are able to create marketing emails and send it to specific segments of alumni. For example, I just picked this example here where anybody who gave more than $100 to a specific fundraising campaign can be targeted with a certain segment and be able to send, you'll be able to send a targeted email to them, right? And what's also interesting is that on the platform, each of the administrators, so each of the staff members is able to see exactly how engaged each of the alums are. And this is where Almabase and Blackbaud together become really powerful for an advancement shop, because you're able to now get down to the details of, hey, tell me how engaged John is, right? And you're able to see all of this information. And then the best part is that for you to be able to sync this information into Rexs Edge, again, it's a really simple interface. For example, in this case, you're able to see that there is some information on Almabase that's not yet available on this user's record on Rexs Edge. You're able to just look at this information. For example, there's a student email ID on Rexs Edge, but if you want to sort of export from Almabase into Rexs Edge, there's a Gmail ID that this person, again, more likely to be the updated email ID that's now available on Almabase, which you can then go in and sort of update the appropriate properties and just click on update Rexs Edge and it instantly updates, right? So that's how these two systems sort of work well together. With that, that's our contact information. That's Kelly, Katy, and myself. We have listed our email IDs here and our LinkedIn profiles as well. Again, like Kelly was mentioning, we'll be emailing you the slides and the recording, so you'll have all of this information with you. But let's look at any questions that have come in. All right, I see a couple of questions. One from Sarah. Do the emails go to alumni who have not signed up for Almabase? The answer is yes, Sarah. So you can send emails to any email ID that you have on your system. Sarah Hetch has another question. Do you integrate with PeopleGrove mentoring software? Sarah, we don't. We do have our own sort of mentorship module. So we don't actually integrate with PeopleGrove. Sarah, if we use another email marketing tool, will it capture those emails as well? We use Emma. Sarah, again, the answer is we don't integrate with Emma. You are free to sort of send emails through your existing email marketing tool. The only thing that you'll miss out if you do that is you're not able to capture the engagement metrics on Almabase or Rexs Edge through that. So that's the answer to that. Another question here from Shannon. How are students able to use the platform with the mentorship module? So Shannon, I'll take a shot at it. So essentially, when you have alumni or students access the system, you are able to segregate the level of access that either of those constituencies have. And so if you want to allow students to be able to access the mentoring part of it, but not access, let's say, the job board or the directory, you are able to set it up that way. And then you're able to allow students to connect with alumni using the mentorship module. Yeah, and then one more question here, and Katie, maybe this is best for you to answer. So the question from John is, if a record is updated, does it write over and delete the info in Rexs Edge NXT or save the old info in Rexs Edge NXT for historical purposes?
No, that's a great question. You have the option to do that. We chose that we wanted it overwritten. We just only had space. I think NXT has 2 spaces, alternate email and email. So if both of them are full, we just said, take the most recent one. If there was room for an alternate email, that's where the historical one would go. And then the new one that came over from Almabase would be the primary one. I think that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. And before we wrap up, actually, feel free to send more questions, but also if anyone's interested in additional information on how Blackbaud Rexs Edge NXT works, how Almabase works, and how this whole integration works, and how this can benefit your university or school, just drop in a message on chat and we'll contact you back with more information. Let's see if we can give it, we're a little ahead of time, which is interesting. But yeah, like any final questions, we're here for a few more minutes. Kelly, anything you want to add before we wrap up?
No, I think that covers it. If you are currently using Blackbaud, Rexs Edge NXT, and have questions, you can certainly reach out to your account executive. But we're excited about this, and I hope that you all find some good value in kind of Katie sharing her experience. And I think this will be a really great way to kind of make the most of your fundraising efforts in this new kind of reality that we're living in. I don't envy many of you as far as advancement officers trying to navigate this without in-person events and your usual networking. So y'all are doing a great job.
Yeah. Talk about challenging times. I think this year has been the worst.
It really.
Yeah, there's a couple more questions, so we'll try and see if we can take these. Hallie has asked, can you talk a little more about how the events integrate into Rexs Edge NXT? So Hallie, the way it works is when you create an event on Almabase, that same event with the same information is also created using Rexs Edge NXT, on Rexs Edge NXT, which also obviously then shows up on the database version of Rexs Edge as well. And then when you have people registering for event or for the event or checking in for the event, etc., all of that information is first captured on Almabase. And then, like I said, there's those buttons that allow you to essentially sync all of that information. The way it all ties up is that when you initially load information from Rexs Edge into Almabase, it's all tied up based on, I think, like a unique database ID. And then all the sort of engagement information that we capture on a particular alum is then, we use that unique ID to be able to sync everything back to the right record on Rexs Edge. Hopefully that's
the only thing I would add, I would just add one bit, Colleen, is that you do need that system record ID to go from Almabase to NXT, but it will tell you if they're mapped or unmapped. That's the word that is used through Almabase. So if they're unmapped, it's just an opportunity to say, okay, let me just check out this person. Who are they? Are they sometimes like an event, they're not even connected to the university. So we have no need to move them from Almabase to NXT. So it's pretty clear about and easy, but you do have to have a system record ID.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that, Katie. There's a few questions here. Shannon has asked, does Almabase integrate fundraising information, for example, appeal information and acknowledgement letters, etc.? No, Shannon, we don't actually integrate that. Typically, you'd have the fundraising system from Rexs Edge, but the community and the events and the engagement with Almabase. So that's not a piece that we integrate. And BV has asked, might you be able to email pricing options to us? We'll certainly do that. Shreya has asked, what steps can you take to create content after creating an app that specializes in creating a close relationship with your alumni? I'm not sure I got the question, Shreya. Would you be able to rephrase that for us? Sorry. There's one more question that has come in. Helly, yes, we do have a recording of the webinar and we'll email it to you by tomorrow.
And I'd be happy to answer, if people have my email, be happy to answer any specific NXT questions. I'm pretty well versed in NXT, so if they have any questions about how that integrates, I'd be happy to help them.
Yeah,
Thanks,
that's
Katy.
great. All right, I guess that's pretty much it. Thank you everyone for taking the time to join us today. And thank you, Katy and Kelly, for joining us and doing this webinar together. It's been a lot of fun. But yeah, feel free to, yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Great. Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good weekend and we'll see you all soon.
Thanks.
Bye.
You too. Bye.
Bye.